Today we're going to have a frank and mature conversation about in particular, we're going to ask the question, why are Christians weird about sex? That is, why do we Christians insist on keeping sex within the context of one man and one woman in a lifelong relationship called marriage? That's different from the modern view. So why? Well, the first thing to say is that the Bible has always been weird about sex.
You're so weird.
The Old Testament preached a markedly different vision for sex than the Egyptian and Assyrian cultures that surrounded it. The New Testament was very different to the Greco-Roman culture that surrounded it. Therefore, the Bible does not need to move with the times because it was never preaching the morality of its time. Ever. The vision the Bible casts for sex and marriage and human flourishing has always seemed to come from another place. So the Bible is weird, but let's be clear, the modern secular view is weird too.
And what is weird? White, educated, industrial, rich, democratic. That's who we are in the West, and it's weird. We're a minority in the world today, and an even smaller minority in human history. The way we tend to think about and categorise sex today is completely unknown to and at odds with the vast majority of human thought. Problem is, we don't tend to recognise this. Many just assume that our white, educated, industrial, rich, democratic worldview of sex is the measuring stick for how all sex should be viewed. And so in this context, secular people may see the Christian view as very narrow. One woman and one man for life. Seems so limited. But in fact, much like the Bible's view, today's weird views on sex are just as much an anomaly in our world and its history. So maybe all of us need to try and bring a bit of humility to this discussion. We see you as weird, you see us as weird. Okay, let's acknowledge that we're all sexual weirdos.
I'm a weirdo.
Christians, let's not clutch our pearls and act all shocked that the world disagrees with the Bible. It always has. And non-Christians, don't be surprised if Christians disagree with the modern secular view of sex. Pretty much everyone else in the history of humanity always has. Let's all be weirdos, and let's listen to each other without assuming the worst.
You are the worst human being I have ever met.
Because actually we're able to coexist with one another when it comes to other issues. For instance, if you became a Buddhist and started telling me about the wonders of enlightenment and the Eightfold Path, I'd say, fair enough. And then if I learn that your school of Buddhism forbids the eating of meat, and if I love bacon, what's my reaction going to be? Will I assume that you hate carnivores? Will I assume that you fear carnivores? Will I call you a carnophobe? Will I say, how dare you? My brother runs an abattoir, but he's the most Buddhist-y guy you'd ever meet. No, I'd probably ask, why don't you eat meat? And you'd just tell me about your grand vision for life, and you'd show me how actually vegetarianism is not at the center of your beliefs. It's just an organic part of your broader belief system. And maybe I'd be convinced by your presentation, maybe I wouldn't, but I would respect your different view, and you would respect my different view, and neither of us would cry bigot and get offended at the very idea of independent thought.
I don't think I can dissect an animal. I think it's wrong.
Okay, Lisa. I respect your moral objection.
We can think differently on such issues and love all the same. Well, it's the same with Christianity and sex. Sexual ethics are not at the heart of the Christian faith. In fact, not even ethics are at the heart of the Christian faith. If you want to know why we think what we think, don't focus on sex. That would be like defining Buddhism by its approach to bacon. We need to go to 30,000 feet and get the bigger picture.
Here are the 5 foundations of the Christian sexual ethic. Number 1, God is love. There's a flow to the living God, a shape. The Father, Son and Spirit are distinct persons united in love. Number 2, history is a love story. It begins with heaven and earth, and through the romance of God and humanity there's a union. Heaven and earth, God and humanity come together in an eternal happily ever after. Thirdly, gender is a gift. It's not self-created. I've been given my identity and I live into it. I don't have to create my identity. Fourthly, our bodies are temples. Our culture says our bodies are more like playgrounds, but the Bible has a higher view. There's something sacred about our bodies and what we do with them.
Your body is beautifully constructed.
Thank you.
It works very, very well.
And then finally, sex is proclamation. Not just procreation or recreation. It's telling us something about the God of love who gave himself to us.
We need to explore those foundations a little more, and we will do that next week. But with these foundations in place, we see that sex belongs within a loving, lifelong relationship of husband and wife. But it also belongs within a cosmic romance that both predated and produced the universe. Sex is connected to the flow of God, of heaven and earth, of all history. We have a view of sex that is connected with the stars.
In recent months, sex has been a huge talking point in our society. The revelations about Harvey Weinstein and the sex abuse scandals of other celebrities have hardly been out of the news. We also saw the Me Too hashtag appearing on social media feeds of people from all walks of life, highlighting just how easy it is for the good gift of sex to be distorted and abused. We need a context for sex. But what is that context? Consent, perhaps? Yes means yes, and no means no. But does yes really mean yes when one party has the ability to destroy the career of the other if they decline? Clearly there are all kinds of complications. Is it possible that the ancient wisdom of the Bible might come to the rescue here? Next week we'll think more about the specifics, but for now, might it be the most loving thing to set sex in the context of a God of love, a history of love, and a lifelong commitment of love? It's worth considering, and maybe we'll discover it's actually what we want.
I'll have what she's having.
Thanks for watching, guys. We've got many more episodes coming up, including another one on the topic of sex next week, so do stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.